Welcome to our podcast on technology and education. I'm Maria, an English professor passionate about educational innovation.
And I'm MihAI, a computer science professor and researcher in artificial intelligence. Today we'll be discussing a fascinating topic, AI agents and their impact on education, with a special focus on the 𝐿 platform.
MihAI, let's start by clarifying an important distinction. Many people confuse large language models, LLMs, with AI agents. What's the fundamental difference?
Excellent question, Maria. An LLM, like GPT-4 or Claude, is essentially a text prediction model. It analyzes text and generates responses based on the data it was trained on. In contrast, an AI agent, such as MarIA, represents a system that can make autonomous decisions, interact with other systems, and execute concrete actions in the digital environment.
So, if I understand correctly, an LLM is like a very intelligent dictionary, while an AI agent is more like an assistant that can do things for you.
Exactly. In sociology, the concept of refers to the capacity to act and shape your reality. MarIA does precisely this. It doesn't just answer questions, but can create complex educational materials, interact with other systems, and automate educational processes.
I tested MarIA last week for a lesson on William Shakespeare. I was amazed by its ability to generate an interactive timeline of the poet's life. Can you explain how this feature works?
Sure, MarIA uses a combination of natural language processing and access to specialized databases. When you request a timeline for Shakespeare, the agent identifies key events from the poet's life, organizes them chronologically, and adds interactive elements like audio fragments, relevant images, and even 3D reconstructions of important places.
What I found remarkable was the ability to personalize content. I could adapt the language and complexity for my class level, and the students were fascinated by the speculative section. If Shakespeare had lived to 70 years old.
That's the power of an AI agent, contextual adaptability. But let's discuss another concrete case, generating personalized visual content. A biology teacher colleague used MarIA to explain photosynthesis to students with ADHD.
How did it work in that case?
The teacher requested transforming the photosynthesis process into a comic in the style of Tintin. MarIA generated a visual story with animal characters, explaining the process in a captivating way. What's impressive is that the agent understood not just the scientific concepts, but also the specific needs of students with ADHD, creating material with short sequences, vibrant colors, and interactive elements.
That reminds me of another important aspect, accessibility. I have colleagues in rural areas with limited access to technology. Can MarIA function in such contexts as well?
Absolutely. MarIA was designed with this challenge in mind. For schools with limited connectivity, the agent can generate materials that can be exported as PDFs or offline presentations. Moreover, there's an intelligent compression functionality that allows downloading materials on devices with limited memory.
Another aspect that impressed me was the ability to create websites for school projects. I had students who knew nothing about programming, and yet created an impressive site about Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, this functionality is revolutionary. MarIA can generate a fully functional website based on a simple description. Students can specify the structure, visual style, add content, and the agent automatically creates pages with relevant texts, generated images, and even interactive elements like timelines or quizzes.
What I find valuable is that students can then personalize these websites without advanced technical knowledge. It's a perfect example of how technology doesn't replace human creativity, but amplifies it.
Exactly. And for advanced students, there's the option to access and modify the source code, thus transforming the project into an opportunity to learn web programming. It's a gradual approach that adapts to each student's level.
Let's discuss the ethical aspects a bit as well. How does MarIA address the issue of plagiarism and originality in student work?
An essential question. MarIA was designed with an educational transparency system. When it generates content, it always includes metadata about the sources used. Furthermore, the platform offers teachers tools to establish clear limits. For example, you can configure the agent to generate only structures and ideas, leaving students with the task of developing the actual content.
And what about assessment? Can 𝐼𝐴 help teachers in this process?
Absolutely. The agent can analyze students' work and provide formative feedback, identifying strengths and areas for improvement. It doesn't replace teacher evaluation but complements it, allowing the teacher to focus on more nuanced aspects of the educational process.
Before we conclude, I'd like to mention 𝐼𝐴's ability to generate multimodal content. Recently, I used the platform to create a literary analysis exercise that combined text, audio, and visual elements. The result was an immersive learning experience that captivated even students less interested in literature.
This is indeed one of the platform's most powerful features. 𝐼𝐴 understands that modern learning is multimodal and that different students have different learning styles. The ability to generate and integrate content in various formats, text, audio, visual, represents an important step toward true personalization of education.
Thank you all for listening to our episode about 𝐼𝐴 and the potential of AI agents in education. We invite you to experiment personally with these tools and share your experiences with us.
We look forward to your feedback and questions for future episodes. This podcast was created with brisk teaching by Professor Adrian Podar, whom we thank for the opportunity to discuss these transformative technologies.
Until next time, stay curious and open to innovation in education.